What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Valley coming at you with the one, the only, the certified fantabulist, and the world-class co-host that is named, who is named, Grant Hughes. We are coming at you with our final preseason podcast package. The Raptors look ahead is coming. It will drop on Tuesday, but this is mine and Grant's last Let's Get Ready for the Season podcast together. The regular season is here, Grant, which means it's awards time, but first the question is twofold. How the heck are you? And two, how are we already here?
Yeah, right? This is the last, but also the first, because we'll come back to these however many times we decide is necessary. I think we did it like quarterly last year where we did an awards check-in. These are tough, man, because it feels, I don't know if you felt this way, but it's almost like, well, how much do you really want to change from how you ended last year? Because there haven't been any games since then, so what would be different? You almost have to fight to make sure you don't just replicate your final ballot, or at least I did. I don't know how you felt about it.
It was, for certain awards, yeah, but then other awards, it's injuries take care of it, not just players are out now, but, okay, Luka Doncic is probably going to factor into the MVP discussion more this year than he did last year, so there's some natural shifting there. I always struggle with how to project improvement to where if there's someone that you think is going to be really good or is on the precipice of whatever award, I sometimes fight against almost internally putting them in there because I'm just conditioned to think that until they're in the mainstream of that discussion that I'm too far ahead of them and it's stupid to include them.
Well, there's a payoff if you do get it right and you get to say, I had this before the season, and I would, believe me, if I get any of those, I will remind everybody that I was in early.
Is there any team or player or something that stands out that you were so, or like a really big hit to where you were just so early on them and in hindsight, it makes you look like a borderline genius?
Ooh, that's no.
I will say
definitely not. You had the Suns one year, right?
And that wasn't even it. I feel there's certain fan bases that I feel like are willing to give me a little bit more leeway when they disagree with me than others. And the Suns do spring to mind a little bit. The Thunder for sure, because I think at the time when everyone was saying they should trade Shea, this rebuild is never going to end, I was just among the people that were saying, no, they're going to be fine. But the player and team, and I think their fan base, not generally, they've turned on me sometimes because I've been critical of them, but they've always been, by and large, really nice to me, is the Nuggets, because I was among the people that were just, no, Nikola Jokic is really good. Okay. This is not like there's no conversation with Jokic and Nurkic. It wasn't even about having those. It was
you're going way back.
Well, it's way back, but to where people, even when he was on his own, like they made what was the date? Probably like December 12th or whatever it ends up being. Mm-hmm. But there was this resistance to thinking that Jokic could be an MVP, or how is he winning MVPs when you couldn't build a title contender around him? And at every step, and I'm not saying this happens, clearly it doesn't happen often for me, but at every step I was just, even some of the arguments were legitimate, they just couldn't sway me. And so I was pretty adamant about that with him. And that's like one of my biggest hits. It's like since I've been doing this is just I was early on Jokic and refused to, because I'm pretty impressionable, you know this, but I refused to move off of like, no, like Jokic is just generational. We don't need to do the rings culture count here.
Yeah, well, now we can, and he's got one, and maybe he'll get a second. No, that's a good one to be in on. I'm sure I don't have anything quite that prescient. Although I feel like I was sold pretty early on Jokic. Maybe you had something to do with that. I don't know.
What about Steph? Did you want them to trade Steph when he
but I do distinctly remember when he signed the 4-year, $44 million contract coming off the ankle stuff. I remember where I was when I wrote it. I think I said something along, which is insane, like $11 million a year by today's standards. So that tells you how long ago it was. But I remember saying, this is a huge risk. And there's a good chance this doesn't pay off because if there's, look at this history, like you can't count on him to play all these games. He's been great. You know, I think I hedged enough as I want to do, but I was really fixated on the risk of it all. And like, this is so much money. This is like Ty Lawson money. Are you crazy? You know, because that's when all those guys were getting their second deals. But then with him, it was all with the Warriors too. It was just sort of, I was too close to it. And I remember Like as it's all happening, those the first championship, it was just like, I can't believe this is happening. This is like this is too impossible. So I can't claim to have like predicted anything. I'm sure the 73-9 season, I was just like, why are we even playing this season? They're not going to be touched, and then they don't win that title. So cuts both ways.
To give you then credit, since you won't give it to yourself, and I don't know how much of this has to do with just your alumni ties, but you were on J-Dub before he even suited up for the Thunder. You were on that.
There's definitely some alumni ties, but I will say, like, when you just watching him early on, I was convinced like this guy just kind of has it. So I'll take that one. I think thank you.
You sound like me talking about Cody Williams, which is not.
It's not too late. Listen, it's early days, Dan. There's so much ahead of him.
I think what better way to segue into MVP talk than by talking about Cody Williams. So our MVP ballots, just as a reminder, we do this as who we think we are going to pick. We're not necessarily trying to predict who is going to win. We go 5 deep on MVP, and then we go 3 deep everywhere else. But there's a twist this year. We are going to name someone, a dark horse, a long shot candidate, who if we were to build a ballot right now, or if the consensus was to build a ballot right now, they would not be in the top 10. But we're trying to map out, we could see a pathway, however unlikely, to them entering the conversation. With that, would you like to take us through your MVP ballot, sir?
Yep. So I've got Jokic first. Just maybe the games played is an issue. I want to try to stay away from that unless it's like a real obvious case, like hypothetically if we had Embiid on here or something, which we don't. But like if there's a massive question mark about injuries, that's worth mentioning. I assume he's going to play 65 games. Maybe he doesn't, but like he's the best player in the world. I don't think that's changed. SGA's MVP was valid last year. Like fine, deserved it. I think I just am taking Jokic as the best player. I don't think that's changed. I have Luka second, and this is where the narrative side of it gives me real pause because I don't think the Lakers are going to win 50 games, and that kind of feels like something you need to do. Except Russell Westbrook's Thunder didn't do it. He averaged a triple-double. I think Luka could absolutely do that, and the Lakers are the 6th seed, and that's enough. I think he's going to have a monster year. I've come around to the best shape of his life thing. I think the team is set up for him to succeed. After that, it's kind of usual suspects. SGA, I think foot comes off the gas a little bit. He plays a little less. He'll still be great. Steph at 4, Wemby at 5. Doesn't feel super
Wemby's
controversial.
in year 3, and you're like usual suspects. Just
usual suspects. I mean, he was probably 5th last year for me. I don't know. So give me yours, because we have quite a bit of overlap there.
I have Jokic at 1, I have Shea at 2. So you're talking about not making changes from last season. This is how I ended last season. I don't see any reason to believe that someone's going to just infringe upon the stature and importance that they hold to their teams. I know the Thunder are insanely deep. I know the Nuggets are deeper, but those are still 2 guys that are just responsible for literally everything basically happening, or offensively, that's happening for their teams. I have Evan Mobley at 3. And so this is where the projecting forward to where I know I mentioned him. He might have been 5th on my ballot, and we talked about him with first team All-NBA last year. So it's not like I'm rushing to coronate. He might just continue to get better on offense. And no matter how you feel about, people overcorrected on Jaren Jackson Jr. last year and Wemby was injured, he just won Defensive Player of the Year. And even if everyone was healthy, probably would have finished no lower than 3rd on that ballot anyway. He might end up being the best offensive and defensive player on his team this season. I don't want to predict that because Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland, all the respect in the world for him, but there's a chance that he does that, and I don't know how many other players can you say that about in the NBA, even have a chance of being that. Wemby, probably, and
even
then,
that feels like a stretch, right?
Right. So I have him at 3 because I think that he is just what he does, the collective of what he does, the aggregate of what he does at both ends of the floor is going to be such a huge factor of not just winning, but for what could be or what should be the best team in the Eastern Conference. Wemby at 4. I shouldn't have to justify this, but in my head, you and I just did our over-unders, and the Spurs could very well just be a 500 team or worse. Mm-hmm. And can you really have the MVP while being on a team that isn't going to be top 6 in the conference? The answer in reality is no. I don't have him as the actual MVP, though, but I don't know how to penalize him for the minutes he's not on the floor. This is just, if he plays in 65 games, He's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. The Spurs are going to win the minutes when he's on the court. That if they start losing the minutes he's on the floor, that's when you have this conversation. I also think if we're looking at voters or even from our own perspectives, once you kind of get past 3, it's I don't need to be, this needs to be on it. I don't even know how much I assign value to that stance anyway, but that's part of it. And then Steph, I had consideration for him at number 3. I think the Warriors are just going to be spectacular at their peak, and that he is still going to be the primary reason why. The things he does for them on offense is just, it's irreplicable. And even with Jimmy Butler there, where you could say, they're going to win the minutes without Steph, it's probably not going to happen because of the offense. It's going to happen almost entirely because of the defense. My only pause with him is, of the 5 names that I have mentioned, even without a real injury, he's the one I look at and wonder, okay, how many games is he going to play?
Yeah. I think the case for so the Wemby case, and because we both have them 4-5 just in reverse order, we're just acknowledging that the Spurs could win half their games, or if Wemby is what he might be, they win 50. And then you're talking, and then that's sort of like, it's circular logic. It's like, well, if they won 50, he was the Defensive Player of the Year and like a superstar on offense. And if he's a superstar on offense and Defensive Player of the Year, they're probably winning 50. It kind of just like, that's a reality that can be, that's possible. And the Steph thing, if you've played with Kevin Durant and like a semi close to the prime Andre Iguodala and that version of the team, it's hard to say this, but in a lot of ways, he's set up to succeed at least as well as he's been since then, and maybe as well, just because of Butler's ability to take games over and attract attention, and then the Horford up piece of it, where they've never had that kind of spacing and passing from like a true center. So there are possibilities for Steph to just like, it's never going to be easy for him because I don't care who else is out there. He's always getting like first option attention, but maybe a little less. And maybe that means he gets like 2 more clean looks a night. I mean, just that's something to just consider. And it went into my thinking for sure.
Did anyone well, actually, how do you feel, to stick with the top 5 we have, how do you feel about this prediction? It came from Adam Mares of DNVR Sports. He thinks that Jokic is going to he did this once, have a true shooting percentage north of 70. Thinks he could, because that his scoring burden won't need to be as high and he'll be able to be more selective with his shots. And so it's Jokic is already the most efficient 20-plus points per game scorer in NBA history because of that true shooting percentage of 70.1. I think it was the championship season. What do you think of the idea that he could just be more efficient than that?
It's hard to imagine because, as you said, nobody ever has really at that volume. But I could see it. I guess I would, before I bought all the way into that, this doesn't diminish his MVP case. I have him first just like you. I would need to be convinced that the remade bench actually does have more self-sufficient scoring or something, just because like, what's the case for him? Why is it easier for him now? I think a lot of that rides on the bench and maybe on like just better health from the starters. Cause like MPJ attracted a ton of attention, and I think Cam Johnson might be similar in that regard. So I mean, I'm not putting anything past Jokic. I'm just not sure I see the A to B, like why is this roster going to allow him to do that?
Looking at just my top 5, I have Luka considered this, especially if there are any good. The narrative bump for Giannis, if he's having his usual type season, that could really put him in here. Any other names? I obviously thought about Jalen Brunson, but it feels like his counting stats might take a hit in here. So maybe there's the trade-off as well. If they look better or people think that their offense is more playoff proof, does he get some love? Anthony Edwards was another name I thought about. Was there anyone that you gave real consideration to in the top 5?
Mobley was a hard cut for me. I had to have Luka in there, and you don't, and was the difference for me. Edwards, you mentioned. I'm trying to think if we're overlooking anybody really obvious. Like, you can't really do either of the other 2 Thunder stars because it'll just be SGA if they're great. I can't get a Rocket on there.
Who would be the Rocket?
I mean, well, do you want to get nuts? Is it Thompson? Is that what we're going to do?
I thought you were saying, is it Reed Shepherd?
Well,
because I'm ready.
There's levels of nuts we could get to with the Rockets. I mean, Şengün will probably be. I mean, he certainly had the best season of anyone last year, and he's young enough to get better. But Thompson this is the whole thing with Thompson is just if, you know, he's probably the best defensive wing in the league, and what if he also averages 20 and 7, you know? Like, what do you do with that?
I think the pathway for Şengün to be the Rocket on the ballot is actually easier because
he's closer.
He's closer, but it also feels it's easier to make the case for someone who's driving the entire offense and then not hurting the defense or playing good defense, rather than with Thompson. It does feel like defense is going to have to be the basis of his case for the most part.
Right. It is a funny thing with awards where if you're a defense-driven player, they're like, "Oh, well, we got an award for that. We don't need to. We don't need to make it about, you know, the MVP is really kind of for."
I guess Wemby is he an exception, or is he just Wemby?
But we're just saying we just went through like he's a lock for Defensive Player of the Year, and he's no higher than 4th for either of us. So clearly, you know, the way for him to win MVP is to become one of the 10 best offensive players in the league.
Are you ready to reveal our with a twist selection?
Yes.
Go through yours first.
I mean, I don't know how much of a twist it is. I feel these are really hard to get too into the weeds with. Paolo Banchero is mine. The Magic, I think, are probably the 3rd best team in the East right now, and maybe if they somehow bust into that top 2, and he is, I don't know, up around 30 points per game and is slightly more efficient, the case kind of just makes itself. Like, I'm just imagining the pieces that would need to come together for him to be there, and the Magic are right there. Like, they could be good enough, even if they're the 3rd seed, if his numbers are crazy. I can just kind of, if you squint, I could see him having a better shot than you might think. And actually, I don't know what he is in the odds. It's probably not that low.
I think that's an excellent selection, and it was also my selection, which is why I pivoted for the sake of variety. I went with Scotty Barnes in Toronto. Again, this is the entire part of the exercise. What if Toronto's just 5th or 6th in the East? He's averaging 20 points, 6 assists, playing excellent defense. He's shooting 37% from 3 on reasonable volume. The true shooting percentage is hovering around 58, 59. Like, he's the best player on what might just be the most surprising team. It's probably a stretch just because 5 or 6 in the East, it's sort of, all right, that's basically a lottery team, right? In most other cases. Yeah. Toronto just has a lot of talent, and if he has I think he is going, if you gave me 0.5 All-NBA appearances for his career, I'm going to take the over. So, like, what if they're just 4th? Like, if they're just 4th, because you have the Knicks, the Magic, the Hawks, the Cavs, what if they want to be better than one of those teams? I don't think they will be, but that would be the name I would circle. I tried to get to a Western Conference name, but none of them, unless you were going to put a Rocket on it, felt like they would be dark horse enough.
Yeah, it's hard because we have, in our more serious portion of the ballot, it's like, well, Anthony Edwards, like you can't, that's not a dark horse candidate at all. He really could win it. I see the difficulty there.
Defensive Player of the Year, you want to take us through your ballot?
Yeah, Wemby won. We've talked about it. It's just
right. Let's move on. We're done here.
I don't know what would need to happen for him to not win this. It's other than injury. Like, if he's healthy, it's just I don't know. It's his. He's just the most game-changing defender maybe we've ever seen. So that's pretty straightforward. I have Evan Mobley 2nd, and I have Amen Thompson 3rd. Which Thompson, I think, the thing I ran into that's tricky is, it's pretty hard for a wing, or like Marcus Smart is the only guard to win it. They're the only non-big to win it in however many, since like Gary
Kawhi,
Payton,
right?
Or something, or Kawhi. Yeah, it's rare, but I think Thompson is a rare defender. I like the other 2 guys you have after Wemby though, because I feel like that kind of gets us covered in the more big man candidates.
Yeah, so I have Wemby 1. I just don't. What is that? What talent would you have to put around him to where the Spurs wouldn't have the equivalent of just a top 5 or 10 defense with him on the court?
You would have to take a lot of Sacramento Kings off of the Kings and put them on the Spurs, I think.
So Wemby 1, Bam Adebayo 2. Has he become underappreciated? I'm not basing this entirely off the GM survey either. It's just Miami reliably has a close to elite defense almost no matter what personnel's on the team. And if he does it this year, when Tyler Hero and Norman Powell are presumably going to play together, and when it seems like he's going to play a bunch with Nikola Jovic rather than Khalil Ware, who's not a great defender, but you can put him in kind of the basic center positions and then let Bam do a lot of the stuff on the perimeter. It feels like if this Heat team is like 10th or something in defense again, that he would have a really strong case non-Wemby division. I also have your guy. I'm surprised you didn't have this guy. Chet Holmgren at 3. We're kind of I'm not doing this, I swear, but I do think that if he's healthy, he does feel like the player that's most likely to just, well, the Thunder have one of the best defenses of all time. Somebody has to be in the top 3 of this ballot. But also, if you were to ask scientists to concoct the ideal defensive big man who's not Wemby, like can't be Wemby, and like make him in a lab, they'd probably spit out some version of Bam Adebayo or Chet Holmgren, right?
Yeah, I think those two guys were very much a consideration for me. I'm surprised to see you not have Mobley up there, given your MVP take on him, which, maybe is not totally defensively based. But anybody else that we need to like give, short list consideration to, or that you thought about in one of these top 3 spots? I have a couple.
Yeah, give me what you thought. My list was not short of the names I considered.
I think if you get games played cleared, Draymond probably should be in consideration if the Warriors are as good as some people think, and he was 3rd last year. So haven't seen too many signs of drop off for him. I had Bam as another guy that I definitely considered pretty strongly, and Chet too. The games played for Chet might be who knows. But yeah, I couldn't. Did you get any other wings in the mix, or maybe the question is about Thompson? Was he someone you thought about?
I did. Thompson was on my list. My ballot does extend deeper. I have him 5th. I had Mobley 4th for anyone who cares. Okay. Jaren Jackson Jr., not a wing. Do we think he'll play in enough games, or has he already been ruled out of that?
That was my reservation, is where he's starting. He's not going to be out as long as Edey, but I don't like. If he's fully healthy, I think he's like a top 5 guy. But we're going to lose some games at the outset.
If we were looking at, I don't want to spoil because we both have them in our dark horses. They're not bigs, so we won't get to that. But if we were to look at like a wing or a guard that isn't quite like that would have the ability to win it, Jalen Suggs, if he plays enough game, feels like given how good Orlando would be on the defensive end, I struggle to get. I don't like Jaden McDaniels probably isn't at that level.
Yeah, I mean Gobert takes some of his, splits the vote, or it probably Gobert gets credit, and not that it will be undeserved if Minnesota's a really good defense. Asar Thompson, just to get the other Thompson on there, I think there's a shot. Yeah, he's kind of wild cardy, I would say.
Not a wing, but if the Clippers are top 5 defense again, it's probably because of Ivica Zubac is killing it, especially when you look at some of the lineups that are going to be rolled out there. So that would be another good one.
We haven't said Dyson Daniels. I mean, I think he's someone that I don't think Dyson Daniels can win it. But just if he averages 3 steals a game again, we're going to have to talk about him.
Do you think, what if I told you he played in 65 games? Do you think Mitchell Robinson could work his way into the equation?
What are his minutes? Yeah, if the minutes are, I think he would be subject to like.
I think the answer should be no. I just don't.
What a setup by you. What a setup in denial. That was like the Lucy and the football thing.
It's too tough to get to the appearances and the minutes, and it feels like he's not going to play, not only not play back-to-backs, but there just might be, he's already missed time for load management, which I think is smart, but I also don't, what would the Knicks have to be defensively for people to take notice of someone playing 23 to 25 minutes a game of
Top
that?
3.
Right, and he's just not, I would think, Gobert would still have more of it, but Mitchell, you know what I mean? Does that make any sense? He's just not on the level of some of these same bigs to me.
Yeah. I think the lesson is I can't just automatically yes and you, because I might just get smacked.
It's nice. Were you considering my field? Did you really want to say, well, hell no, but you were trying to placate?
I was going to have some questions about you said 65 games, and so then I'm like, well, I don't know, but the minutes aren't going to be there. Let's get to dark horses. This is kind of fun.
Who is your dark horse?
I have Toumani Camara, who I think I don't know where he finished. Did he make an all-defensive team last year? I think maybe
he finished second.
Yeah.
So team, yeah.
So maybe this isn't quite enough of a dark horse, but I think Portland's defense could be nails. I think it could be really good, and I think he's the best defender on that team. I think he's among wings. It's like you got the Thompsons, you got Jaden McDaniels, you got Herb Jones, you got all the usual suspects, and Kamara is just he's as good as all those guys. Maybe not as good as Amen Thompson was last year, but right there. So I just wanted his name on there as someone who could win it if Portland, mildly exceeds my expectations, and instead of a top 10 defense is 4th or 3rd. I think there's a way for him to get it.
I love Toumani Camara. I like that pick. I think OG just as we're talking about some of the most versatile defenders in the NBA, there is Tamani Kamara's on there. I think Bam Adebayo's on there. I don't think OG receives enough credit. Probably not if you want someone who's going to do a lot of the rim protection stuff. That's not going to be him scaling up to that. But if the Knicks are just, for some reason, maybe because they're starting with dual bigs, maybe they are using Mikal Bridges away from the point of attack more. If the defense is good enough and he's doing all the OG Anunoby things that people can take notice of, maybe he could creep in there. Again, this is not, we don't think he's going to finish top 3-5 on the ballot. That's the entire point of this.
Yep, there you go.
We are on to Rookie of the Year, Grant. Who we got?
I mean, I guess the question really is this the like, what are we talking about? Leader, or is it Defensive Player of the Year in Wemby? Because it's Cooper Flagg. It's just not even like it's almost unanimous. I don't know who's saying anyone other than him. If it was Cooper Flagg versus the field, I think Flagg might still be the pick. So no shock, I have him first there. Maybe not a shock too. Dylan Harper second. He's got a limited sample in the preseason. Just kind of looks like he can play. And if De'Aaron Fox misses significant time, it's kind of just his team to run. So, you're going to be high profile playing with Wemby. There should be easy buckets to be had, to be assisted on, I guess I should say. And then Ace Bailey third, going to get all he can eat. Like, the Jazz need this guy to be the guy. So it'll be a volume Rookie of the Year campaign. I don't think he's going to be that efficient. But if he's a 20-point scorer in this class, I think that's good enough for a third place spot on my ballot.
I had Ace number 2 in part because of the volume. And I think there's just, again, I don't want to talk too much about Will Hardy, but if he does enough inventive things on offense, maybe Bailey is not just scoring 20 points a game, but he's doing it in the preseason. He's shooting 60% on twos and 40% from three. I don't want to place too much stock in that, but
a lot of jumpers.
Right. Cooper Flagg number 1. There's just the no notes there. I honestly, if he has a bad offensive season, do you think it opens the door? Or do you anticipate he'll just be so good on defense it won't matter?
I mean, I don't know what a bad offensive season even looks like for him, just because.
Fair.
He shoots 30% from three or something like that, that kind of thing.
Or below 50% on twos.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think maybe the fact that he seems to be getting reps at point guard, he's gonna? So if he does have a bad offensive season, I think you'll be able to say well, the Mavs were clearly playing him out of position. The ask is just so big, it's unreasonable. He should be inefficient or something, and then the defense will just be that good, I think.
I went with Con Knipple at number 3. He is going to start, it looks like, right away for Charlotte, if not by the end of the year. I think he will be. And that was what I have Dylan Harper on my short 5 list. I just wonder what his role will be for the full strength Spurs, which is why I couldn't have him too high up there. I do agree with you that I think when we talk about worrying about the Spurs guard dynamic, I worry the least of the 3 about Dylan Harper's fit. Is that stupid?
No,
Say
because
yes.
he can.
Well, I'll tell you why it's stupid, Grant.
He can
I set
do
you
both.
up again.
No, I'm going to bat this one right back at you. No, because the Fox health and shooting concerns are real. Castle's shooting concerns are real. Also, he's maybe not actually a point guard. Harper just looks like he could play one or two. I think he's going to be able to shoot, and just is I don't know. He doesn't seem like a rookie in a lot of key ways. So I think he's like the guy that'll figure it out. If his fit isn't great to start. So I do think he's going to be. I think he's going to be really good. I don't know. So big revelation there. The number 2 pick is going to be really good.
You've been just dropping hot take after hot take. We're not even 35 minutes in. Other names I can say, but just with Knipple, I think the shooting is going to translate and that the totals will be there. I think he has some on ball jiggle and joggle to him. Maybe some of the playmaking numbers will tick up too. I also considered Trey Johnson. That feels like sort of a pure scoring case. We turn around. Trey Johnson's averaging 20 plus points per game for the Wizards. VJ Edgecombe, I assume, is going to play a lot for the Sixers, and he's fun. I think if you're looking from an entertainment perspective, is there a chance he ends up, maybe Cooper Flagg is just going to win the entertainment value, but I could see VJ Edgecombe being the most entertaining rookie. I say that. Young Hansen, how much is he going to play in Portland? He could be the most entertaining rookie.
That's a Donovan Clingan injury away from things getting real exciting. Just throw him out there, because if offense is the problem, maybe his passing unlocks things for the Blazers they wouldn't get to otherwise. That was going to be mine. I don't really believe it, but I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for him to have
for a Donovan Clingan injury. That's messed up.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't. No, get him out of the way. No, he might be good too. Yeah.
Yegor Demin. it was just one of the Nets' first round picks, right? But Yegor Demon, if they put the ball in his hands enough, might have the numbers. And one that I don't think you can even. He's probably a longer than long shot. But the Heat, like their injuries are just piling up so much, including to him and their lack of like Kasparis Jakubčionis. He throws some of the most audacious passes I have seen for a rookie. And so I'm rooting for him to get minutes somehow, but I don't know if he'll have the, like, even if he gets a role, you have Norman Powell there, you have Tyler Hero. I don't know what his path to playing enough minutes and getting enough volume to be rookie of the year would be.
It's got to be Hero's just out for longer, and like Mitchell can't score at all, or something. You know, there's ways that you said it. It's kind of like a darker than dark horse, longer than long shot pick. Speaking of, shall we get to our actual long shots?
Yeah. Let me go with mine first. I have Nate Clifford in Sacramento, and I feel like I shouldn't select him because the Kings only do bad things, and that's not a shot at Nate Clifford, but I think he's one of the most well-rounded players in this draft class. If you wanted him to, he could run some point. They will not need him to because all they have is guards on that team. But the things he can do defensively, I don't know how much further up the positional spectrum he can guard, but he's absolutely someone, a lot of the perimeter players, the other team's best option, you could have him go there. I think he's a pretty good, even without the ball, like he will make quick decisions off it. He will move. He should be able to space. And I think like he's not going to be someone that stops the offense, even if he's part of this, like more of just second units or whether he's playing with the stars, he will get off the ball quickly. And with the Keegan Murray injury, I think it opens the door for him to play more minutes out the gate and put himself on the radar to the point where, one, then it makes it harder for the Kings not to play him when they are closer to full strength. And then two, it does kind of ensure that people will still be talking about him moving forward.
I mean, his opportunities are there. The Murray injury, just like the Kings couldn't, like, Murray was irreplaceable. I mean, except now Nate Clifford has to replace him, I think, as like just the bigger forwardy wingy type player that they really don't have that might be able to hold up on both ends.
You don't think Dario Saric will work his way into the mix there? No.
Is it 2017? Maybe then. I like that pick. I just think opportunity matters a ton. Like he'll be in the rookie. He'll be like in an all rookie team, I think, like unless he just, because he has to play. He has to play.
These are the Kings. They might find a way.
That's the thing. They wouldn't need him to play if they weren't the Kings and put together a sensible roster. So does that also mean that because they're the Kings, they won't play him? Like that, maybe that's the biggest hurdle.
But in all actuality, you think when Keegan Murray's healthy, you believe that he has to play still?
I mean, obviously more so without Murray, but even with, like, I forget, I've said this before, like, between Keon Ellis and Nate Clifford and Keegan Murray, those are like the three guys that can sort of give the Kings semi-sensible lineups that have like a little bit of balance and a little bit of two-way play. And Ellis is just a smaller player, so he can't really take those types of minutes away from Clifford and Murray. So if I'm trying to put the best, and the Kings are trying to win now, obviously, because what else is this roster going to do? I think Clifford is like just a critical gap filler. Because he does stuff that like the Levines and DeRozans and Sabonis's and like those guys don't do the things they need him to do.
You know what we're also not considering, since it's the wild card portion of it, is that what if he just gets traded with Domantas Sabonis to the Bulls for Vooch and Kobe White? Then he'll be on Chicago with all the opportunity in the world.
Perfect. And then he's got to get over Patrick Williams, and I think he can do it. So my pick is Liam McNeely.
Love this.
Just it's deep enough down the draft that it's a very clear like. He might be in the G League in a month into the season, but between just it's sort of a little bit like the Clifford case where I kind of like McNeely as someone that can give you real offensive punch. Like the defense will be iffy, but like as a shoot pass connector, good size. Like I don't know, like they'll probably give Tejan Salon plenty of minutes again. Like Miles Bridges is there. Brandon Miller could play up as a bigger wing if you wanted him to. Like there's definitely guys in the way. I just kind of liked some of the preseason flashes I saw from him, and just as someone to bet on, why not someone that was a super high school recruit? Went to Montverde, like was one of those guys that was just like cream of the crop in his high school class. Didn't shoot it as well as maybe everyone would have expected at UConn, and I think that hurt him because it's like, oh, not super duper athletic white forward that didn't shoot it well. What are we doing? It's like, well, it was just 1 year in UConn. Maybe that wasn't the best system. So I think he's got some real skill. Whether he gets a crack at showing that, hard to say with Charlotte. He should.
Should Should the Nets be concerned that only one of their 5 first-round picks made it, but both of Charlotte's first-round picks made it to the Rookie of the Year discussion?
The Nets, I think if you did, what if your wild card or your dark horse was just like a net? Since they clearly just drafted all those guys like together, if you get the all 5.
It feels weird putting including Demon in there because it's just then a top 8 pick we're including as a dark horse.
Right.
The one that I gave some thought to, and if you were coaching the team, I actually might have just put him on my ballot. Walter Clayton Jr. I just don't know how much he's going to play in Utah through and through, or how long it takes for them to get to a minute, but he might be a fun dark horse too.
I'm not going to be surprised when he wins that job. I mean, it's going to take he's going to have to do is defend halfway decently and make 36% of his threes over the first couple weeks of the season, and then we'll be talking about it. Because I just think Collier and George have too many glaring. Listening to Sarah Todd on the look ahead, it's really soured me on George. So I'm ready to just move on. I think if I'm the Jazz.
Speaking of moving on, can you take us through your most improved player ballot?
Yes, I can, Dan. So my Thompson is going to be different than your Thompson, just for funsies. I worry that Amen Thompson it may be just a case of everyone catching up late, but a little bit of a leap happened last year. Not to say one can't happen this year. I think it's possible. I don't think Asar Thompson has quite the same standing among people predicting these kinds of awards. So I think there's every chance that at the end of this season we view him similarly. Now maybe that's a little bit of a stretch. The playmaking would have to get a lot better. He'd have to make some shots. But Amen Thompson didn't make any shots last year, and his star really rose. So I'm going with Asar. I think defensively he's about as good as it gets and should get to play. And I just athletically if he plays, he's going to be a great defender, and maybe we get steps offensively, and that's how you get here. The other two guys are kind of two different stripes of most improved candidates. One is Nembhard, and just the role, Andrew Nembhard. The role is going to be enormous, probably too big, because he's going to have to run the offense and guard the other team's best scoring threat in the backcourt. That's a lot. But I think he's just going to have the opportunity, and I think he's good enough to make a lot of it, and people will realize, actually this is a starting point guard in the NBA. The last guy's Denny Avdia. The breakout already happened, but nobody was paying attention to the Blazers after the All-Star break last year. So this is me saying he'll basically be close to that guy for a full season, and everyone will decide that year over year the leap is enough for a third spot here.
I love the Asar pick and would celebrate that. The Nembhard, I just don't know how much better he can be on offense without Tyrese Halliburton, and if he has to maintain his defensive workload, especially with who do you trust to press on that team now with the McConnell injury?
It's him.
Right. It's going to Shepherd, of course. So that's something to watch. I do like to pick Denny Avdia. That is a good point. I'm just wondering how much now, if you were to take the whole, who was paying attention last year out of the equation, how much better do you think Denny Avdia can get based off last year? I did this thing, which I feel like I never do, but do you remember the year that Tyrese Maxey won it? Did it not feel, I don't think either of us picked him, but did it not feel that he was sort of preordained coming into the season as the next most improved player? I feel 100%. The same way about Amen Thompson, Thompson, I should call him from now on, except I actually believe that that's okay because the defense, I don't know what he could do to get better on defense. Is it just he's going 1-on-5 and winning the possessions? Sure.
Yeah.
Offensively, though, there's room for him to improve. I'm not talking about the addition of a three-point shot, but can he attack from different angles with the ball? Can he get a little bit of the floater going? And if he does any of that, and then if he's also just the counting stats are skyrocketing because of the way that the Rockets are set up post-Van Fleet injury, is it outside the realm of possibility that he's averaging 20 points and 7 assists per game? And maybe a lot of those are coming in transition, but he could do something like that. And if he if we start viewing him independent of his defense as, a really useful offensive player, that becomes huge for his case. I have Wemby too. What do you think about that?
I think there's no award you can't put Wemby on the top 3 for. Coach of the year, Wemby.
Don't you feel year 3 and year 4 players are catnip for this award? And I know that Wemby has been just mentioned as a defensive player of the year candidate. We both had him on our MVP ballots, but he's not even in his prime yet. And so if he comes out and so people have oversimplified his offense, he's taking too many threes. Well, he's getting into the paint more now, and they're doing more things with him on the ball, and he's stronger. You mentioned the turnovers will be there, but what if he's just better across the board? What if he runs away with Defensive Player of the Year and the Spurs are like a top 3 or 4 defense? I don't know how likely that is, but he's still at the point where he is only going to get better. And so offensively is what I zero in on and say, if we see the assist numbers come up, maybe the handle gets a little bit better. I know that it's always going to be touch and go because of his size. If he's generating more of his own offense, more of the offense for other guys, and the bigger thing I come back to is just the deep paint touches on the ball. Not even, I mean, maybe even as a screener and roller, but he's developed chemistry already. We mentioned this. I don't know what on the over-under pod. We've seen some stuff with him and Luke Cornett. I know it feels too smack you in the face, but this isn't circa Steph Curry being unanimous MVP and trying to make that case for most improved player. This is someone in year 3.
Which I did.
Which, again, is fine, but don't those campaigns tend to lose weight or just be sort of shrugged off because it's Steph Curry?
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama's going into year 3. The fact that he's a household name, I don't know if it works against him as much in this scenario.
Right. No, I think the pushback would be, well, the bar is already so high. Like, everyone already thinks the world of him, but it's just like, well, you need to expand your imagination a little bit because you're assuming that this bar, that what he's done right now, like, that counts as a high bar for him, which actually may just not be the case if he is the type of generational, just, he could win MVP, right? Like, he could win MVP. And if he wins MVP, he has to be most improved because, that he wasn't close to that last year, except, when he was healthy. I don't know. I'm
going to put it on record now. Wembanyama, top 5 in the Triple Crown of MVP, MIP, DPOY. I'm getting so choked up over how excited and sure I am of it.
Totally possible. Who's your third guy?
Peyton Pritchard. Okay. This is interesting because I don't know how many more minutes he's going to play. He was over 28 last year. I assume he'll be comfortably over 30 this year with no Tatum, no Drew Holiday there. And the way he can shoot, the way he can grab rebounds, he will try on defense. I think, yes, I was talking about this with Bobby Manning of CLNLS Media. He will have more defensive attention on him, but he's not going to be the primary defensive focus ever. And he can make things happen for himself and others when he gets into the lane. Maybe we see the shots and the drives coming out of drives and the drives overall go up. This is another guy where if he hits like 20 points per game because he shoots so efficiently from the floor and they just don't have a lot of other facilitators on this team. Oh, look at Peyton Pritchard averaging 25 and 5 on otherworldly efficiency. I'm not ruling it out. And if he's there, he's probably entering the MIP discussion.
I think a couple good stats in his favor. Just per 36 last year, Pritchard was 18, 5, and 4. So, like, if he's the same guy, he's getting there. I think, like, what if he just leads the league in 3-point makes? Like, why not? Like, that's totally the way the Celtics play and the way he can shoot it. I think that should be a goal, and it's an achievable one. Yeah, 25 and 5 for Pritchard. I mean, that will be viewed as a massive improvement just because what did he average last year? Like 14, 4, and 4.
Yeah, around
that 20 might be the magic number for him. If he gets to 20, I think he's going to be really in the running for this.
Just to throw some other names that aren't quite, I think, super dark horses. Peyton Watson might be a super dark horse. Everyone's a super dark horse in MIP. Trey Murphy in New Orleans, that's another one. Did people notice the improvement last year and how much better does he get this year? Jabari Smith Jr., maybe he tightens the handle and the scoring goes up without Van Fleet. Benedict Mathurin is just sort of you pick Nembhard or Mathurin from the Pacers team without Tyrese Halliburton. You already mentioned Asar Thompson. The other name I considered going my dark horse for him, I really like Nikola Jovic, but I wondered if I was falling in love with the idea of his baseline is already so low, kind of just because of the volume we've seen over his first 3 years. But that would be another name if he's healthy, which right now he's dealing with back stuff, that I think he's going to start. So like the numbers just might be there.
You said Ben Mathurin, right? Like he's got to be there. I think you could go deeper on the Pacers, like just because the opportunities may be there, like Obi Toppin, Ben Shepherd.
Ooh,
like what if either of those guys just gets
Jay Huff?
34 minutes a night? Jay Huff, everybody loves Jay Huff. Per minute monster, Jay Huff. 2010 and 3 blocks per 36 probably. I'm just making these numbers up.
Well, I mean, if he goes from per minute monster to per game monster, I guess he would have a pretty good case, right?
Just because I only choose Blazers, Shaedon Sharpe, like if he just becomes like a full-on all-star shooting guard type of player, I mean, again, we're getting the kind of dark horse territory, but not true dark horse because that's where we're going right now. You're so on brand. Just looking at the graphics. I went with Max Christie. This is, again, dark horse. I think there's a chance that the Mavericks just decide we can't have Cooper Flagg and D'Angelo Russell, and I guess certainly not Klay Thompson, and probably not Najee Marshall, like chasing around ones and twos on defense. And clearly this is a defensively oriented team. I think Christie can guard those guys, or at least I'm intrigued to see him get a shot at it. And he was really good on both ends initially after the trade last year, and then really fell off. I wonder if there's a 40% three-point shooter that can guard ones, twos, and threes, and maybe do even a little bit with the ball once in a while. And if he's that guy, I could see him getting some real consideration. A lot of ifs in there, obviously, but that's the portion of the ballot we're on.
I think a lot of the on-ball stuff would need to come together, and I don't view him as that guy. But are the Mavericks set up to give him that opportunity just because of a lack of alternatives while Kyrie's out? I don't. Well, are they going to be more inclined to try him out on the ball after Cooper Flagg than I mean, they have D'Lo, but who else? Like, do you want Dante Exum on the ball a bunch? Jaden Hardy feels like an afterthought there now.
I think just the defense gets him on the floor, and then if he can provide if he can also space and maybe score in transition and, I don't know, run he's not going to be like a guy that runs pick and rolls. I don't think that's in the cards, but you see I can see the vision, as Nico would say.
I have two wild cards, and it's kind of a joke on brand, but also serious. Reed Shepherd, we haven't seen a second-year player win it since Monte Ellis, and I don't know if the fact that Reed Shepherd's working off such a low baseline helps or hurts him. Would you rather give it to someone who's a sophomore that showed more last year, so the improvement in theory was harder? But the role, if he's still like headlining the Rockets rotation in March, something good has probably happened with him. So I circled his name. My more real wild card is Onyeka Okongwu. I think that he is, so you have Jalen Johnson and Kristaps Porzingis in the front court. Mo Gay, too. Can't forget about him. But I think when you're looking at those three, Okongwu is going to be the one that plays more with the other than either of those two because he's just so functionally malleable. And if we've already seen things that he could do when he catches the ball in the middle of the floor, has some moves with the ball in his hands, we know about the defensive, versatility. If the three-point shot continues to come together, he's getting out to the corners, and we've seen him get there if the efficiency can tick up, it wouldn't surprise me if he's playing more minutes, and this is someone who's, he's at like 18 points a game, and he's got like 3 or 4 assists, and so that's one of those mid-career, like maybe he's too deep in the career for other players, but hey, that's why he's in the dark horse / wild card spot.
I think I love the argument for him or part of the argument being the nobody was paying attention thing, because people are going to look and see he shot 32% on like pretty low volume from 3 over the full course of last season, but he was 38% after the break on more volume. And so like the growth sort of happened, and he'll just carry it over to a full season now, and everybody will think, oh my God, like this guy learned how to shoot over the summer. That's like the case kind of is pretty easy to see coming together for him for that reason.
And this is the first time, defensively, specifically, this is the first, well, we don't even know if we're going to get to see it. We've never seen him in this role, a higher volume role, with a relatively healthy supporting cast around him. As he gets more minutes last year, like Jalen Johnson's not playing by that point. So he's just a player that I'm going to be fascinated by this year. Are you ready to take us through your 6th man of the year ballot?
All right. I love how different we are on this one, which shows that nobody knows what a 6th man is. So I went Brandon Podziemski as my first pick. We talked a lot on the Warriors pod about how like they just need anybody to be a secondary offensive creator, particularly for the bench, which is what's relevant for this role. He seems best situated to do that, except Moses Moody is already hurt and is questionable for the opener, and so maybe Podziemski will be a starter. But that kind of helps here, and that's kind of what I did with my whole ballot, is I want the guy that's going to start a bunch and then still qualifies for 6-man because he'll have crazy numbers. It always seems to be helpful. I want a guy that I can imagine starting and closing, and that's kind of true for all 3 of these players. So Podziemski 1, Nickeil Alexander-Walker 2. I think he's going to close for Atlanta. I think there's going to be a lot of situations where he's out there next to Trae Young, and maybe it's not Daniels, and maybe it's not Risache, because he gives you the two-way stuff. He can do stuff with the ball. He can shoot 3. Like he's easy to imagine there. Josh Hart for 3, assuming he doesn't start, which presumably he won't. I don't know. Might have gone with
He
Deuce
won't.
McBride if Deuce McBride were guaranteed to be a bench guy. I think as much as we love the Knicks' new depth, they do sort of have like 7 starters, and so I want one of those guys on my ballot because any one of them could close games and see 25, 30 minutes a night.
I think Hart is the right pick to where he'll probably not start as much. Like if Mitchell Robinson needs a rest, maybe they insert Deuce McBride, or do they go with Ariel Huckporty? Between the back issues, doing the finger splint, that's why I couldn't get there with him. The Nico Alexander-Walker, I have him third. I think that's just a really good pick. I try to look at guys who I think will come off the bench enough, but I could envision also closing enough games.
Totally.
So he's that. And some of his counting numbers might go up because Atlanta's secondary ball handling is all over the place. Who are they going to use a lot in that capacity? Pods, if he wins Sixth Man of the Year, how good are the Warriors at that point, though?
It depends on if he wins Sixth Man of the Year, it probably means the old guy stayed healthy too. So the answer is very good, I would say.
I have Case and Wallace number 1. I don't know. The closing game stuff gets a little bit iffy with him, but I think that he might have enough starts, or he just might get enough minutes to where his numbers are going to be juiced. There's a lot to plumb there offensively to where it's okay. Like the 3-pointers, I think will go back to falling at a higher clip. I think he can do some things with the ball in his hands, especially when the floor is spaced out and he has the driving lanes. This is someone who's going to get to like the 20 plus, 25 plus minute threshold of game semi-consistently. I think we've moved away, not that we've moved away, but isn't it more likely than ever now that it doesn't need to be this, and your ballot reflects that, I think mine reflects that, it doesn't need to be this high volume microwave scorer to win the Sixth Man of the Year award.
It's not Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford necessarily anymore.
My number 2 pick, I don't love because I was worried he was going to start too many games, but it doesn't sound like the plan is to bring John Collins off the bench. If I'm wrong there, then that's a good thing that this isn't a middle of the year ballot because that would look like a pretty bad pick. He can play next to Zubats. He can play next to Lopez. Maybe they'll try him out at the 5 a little bit. He's going to rebound a bunch. He will space. He'll probably get some looks to where he could screen and roll. This is just like he comes in. Is he averaging like 14 points and 7 boards and some on-efficient shooting? That could get him. And is he maybe closing games if you're trying to look at your closing dual big as the Clippers, you're closing with Zubats and Collins. You're not going Zubats and Lopez, although I would pay to see that. And so Nickeil Alexander-Walker, third. Honorable mentions before we're getting to the dark horses here. I also had, who did I have here? Naz Reid, Anthony Simons, Josh Hart was on my list, Tari Eason, Dante DiVincenzo, Scottie Pippen Jr., RJ Barrett, Keldon Johnson. This is too dark horse for me. Jace Richardson, Grant. Like if they just decide they need scoring coming off the bench in Orlando,
that's actually
might be a
really good. I think he's going to play a lot. I think they need him to play a lot. I don't think that's too dark horse at all. Rookie for 6 man, that's fun.
I had Toppin. I had Pods, 2 on my long list. Jonas Valanciunas, Najee Marshall, Sam Merrill, Deuce McBride, Colin Sexton, Ty Jerome, Peyton Watson could be there. Brook Lopez I wanted to pick, but with John Collins coming off the bench, I feel like there's no pathway to him playing enough. When it was John Collins and Zubac starting, it was, he'll be the first big off the bench. That's how you get the minutes.
I think like there's teams I'm focused on. You've mentioned some guys from them, but so like Memphis, for example, just because you're going to have bench guys sopping up a lot of minutes. And you said Ty Jerome, I don't know if you said him, is somebody that like one of those 2 backup point guards. Any Clipper, Chris Paul is someone you might want to think about. Bogdanovich, sure. Derek Jones or John Collins, one of the 2. Brook Lopez, like you could just pick a Clipper, pick a Sixer, because between the Maxey, McCain, Edgecombe, Grimes group, like not all of them are going to start. So I think you just kind of looking at situations is where I kind of get into my down ballot looks. Those 3 teams in particular.
Who's your wild card?
The one and only Bruce Brown. He's back, and if the Nuggets bench is as off-season award-worthy as everybody seems to think it is, I could see Bruce Brown just being the same guy he was on the title team, and I think that's good enough on what should be a very good team to get some down-ballot consideration. I'm mostly just picking him because he would fully validate my theory. Not even a theory. It's just like, it's a fact at this point that like, if you leave Nikola Jokic, life gets a lot worse. And when you come back to him, everything's better and you're your best self and you're happier and you're more efficient and you win awards. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that proven.
My wild card is going to be Khalil Ware. It seems like they're going to start Jovic and Bam, which I think is better for him because he comes off the bench and then he's basically your primary big on the offensive end. which will allow him to do things inside the arc screen more rather than just space in place. But there'll also be the spacing element from him. He should be able to gobble up rebounds while he's on the court, and do that either way. And then the minutes he plays with Bam, like that's probably where you'll see like, oh, is he a good rim protector? What are the shot blocking numbers there for him? I talked about this with Wes Goldberg of Locked On Heat. I don't have a great feel for what he could be, but like some of the flashes make you think that he could be anything and everything. Him coming off the bench under Eric Spoelstra, who's given him a lot of tough love, if the minutes are going to be there, there's a chance that the counting stats are there as well.
Yep, I like that pick.
We are on to Coach of the Year, everybody's favorite. Who do you have, Grant?
So I went with Jamal Mosley. He's also like, if I were doing hot seat rankings, he might also be number one. So there's quite a bit of variance. He's kind of like
Coach of the Year or else, right?
Right. And so I'm going with the Coach of the Year side of it. Orlando should be way better. If they have the kind of offensive growth that they need to, I think that will be, everyone will point to Desmond Bane, and that'll be partially right. And maybe Paolo gets better, and Franz makes a three, and Tyus Jones stabilizes the bench, all that stuff. But I think Mosley will get a lot of credit, especially if they're really good defensively again, because it's always the coach, I think, that you get more credit as a coach for defense and offense, I think sometimes. But if the offense gets, 15th, break even, like that, middle of the pack, it's going to reflect well on him, and that might mean the Magic win 54 games. And so I could just see the case coming together. Quinn Snyder's kind of similar because Atlanta is kind of right there with Orlando in the expected improvement department. And then David Adelman, this seems to happen, right? Like a kind of a new addition, or not even really because he was an assistant, but like takes over a team that's already really good. And it seems like early career coaches tend to win this more often than you'd think. So again, it's kind of a narrative thing. I know the Nuggets are going to be good, and maybe like, he uses the bench better, and maybe the offense shoots a bunch of threes and he gets credit for that after so many years of not doing that. So I could see him winning it. In all of these cases, like these are just teams that are going to be really good. I don't have Eric Spoelstra on my ballot, even though I think everyone agrees he's one of the three best coaches, maybe the best in the league. He's just never going to win it.
Excuse me, sir. He's number 2 on my ballot, which would be the third time he ever finished, and he's never won it, and he's finished second twice, I believe. So the David Adelman case, I had him number 3. I think if there's just better vibes coming out of Denver coupled with, he overhauled the defense and it worked, that's going to be a huge case because they'll probably have then won like 57 plus games or whatever it is. Quinn Snyder, I have him as well. This is I think the second time in 3 years I've picked him. The Hawks have more talent. He's already shown that he can use Trey a little bit differently. I think the Hawks are going to be good enough to put him on the radar. For Spoelstra, he's second. This just feels like the coaches I feel like to guide the teams that don't have those crippling expectations. You want to be at the highest level and get to a title, but we saw Greg Popovich get reinvigorated in San Antonio when they kind of finally pivoted out of the mediocre era. The Heat are sort of caught in between, but you've given him a bunch of flyers and young guys and experimental pieces. If they can have a good offense and then also a good defense while playing Norman Powell and Tyler Hero together a bunch, and Jovic is getting a ton of minutes, his case will be strong. The problem with Coach of the Year, we said we were going to do this in an hour, so we got to move on, but there's just, I could name you so many names where it's Rick Carlisle and Tyrese Halliburton's absence. What about Joe Mazzulla with no Tatum? The Celtics are good. Bickerstaff in Detroit. Mike Brown with the Knicks. You talk about a new coach coming in, and what if the Knicks get that bump? Ty Lue with the Clippers. There are so many coaches who they're not quite dark horses. You could envision finishing in the top 3 of this award.
Yeah, you can almost make a case for 25 different coaches, really, if you wanted to. And I don't know who I'm excluding. I won't name names because that's just feels mean, but you can get there. What about wild cards? Because this is tricky for that reason. Who did you go with as your wild card for Coach of the Year?
So I'll stick with what I did with MVP. It's just, what if the Raptors are good? Everyone's expecting them not to be good. We have Darko Rajakovic there. Maybe he's Brandon Ingram shooting more threes and moving off the ball a ton. The defense is living up to its reputation. Scotty Barnes is more efficient. If you just figure out a way to tie the whole Jakob Poeltl, Ingram, Barnes, RJ Barrett dynamic, whether it's staggering, figuring out ways to play them together, that's going to be a huge boost in his favor. If the Raptors are a top 6 team in the East, would you almost predict that he winds up finishing top 3 on the ballot at that point?
Yeah, then there's going to be some other awards too, or at least some high ballot stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. So I went with Chauncey Billups, and it's kind of a similar case where I think both these teams are viewed similarly in their respective conferences. Both of their strengths are on defense. All of their questions are on offense. And the difference is, I think Rajakovic kind of still has the sheen of like, oh, he's pretty tactically clever, and they have some real like offensive principles that he's real serious about. Chauncey Billups, I don't think anybody regards as one of the best coaches in the league. And I personally don't, but just situationally, if the Blazers win 44 games and are in the top 6 mix or the play-in mix at least, and that defense is top 5, I think he's going to get credit for it. I think there's a real chance that they have an extreme strength, and that gets them farther than most people expect. And maybe the offense looks good too. I think there's just a way that the Blazers, it's really kind of a bet on the Blazers more than anything else. And I think he'll be acknowledged if that pans out well for them.
Is Jordi Fernandez more likely to get Coach of the Year if the Nets win 30-something games, or fired?
I was like, the second half of this better be fired. Both? I don't know.
Who do you have for Executive of the Year?
I mean, you got to go with the team that just did all the fleecing. Atlanta Hawks, Onsi Saleh. I can't get over the trade with New Orleans. That was a huge win. I think the Alexander Walker sign and trade is spectacular. Getting Porzingis, even Luke Kennard. It's just the Hawks kind of won the offseason in a lot of ways, so it has to be him for now. We'll see how that pans out. After that is Lawrence Frank, just for excellence in not answering questions. I think we need to honor that. He was really good at dodging all the aspiration and Uncle Dennis stuff. But like that offseason was also just absurd. The amount of depth that he added to the Clippers is ridiculous. And then who do I have here next?
You've Jeff Weltman number 2, right?
Yeah, sorry. I had Jeff Weltman number 2. I jumped right to Lawrence Frank. I was looking at your side. The Desmond Bane trade was really bold. And getting Tyus Jones, I think the Magic did what they could to address the problems we all knew they had. And so I think if things work out well for them, Jamal Mosley might be Coach of the Year, and Weltman and Anthony Parker, respectively, that Orlando front office might get acknowledged too.
I went with Onsi at number 1 too. The Hawks are just one of the biggest offseason winners. I had Lawrence Frank at 2. I'm curious if the stink of the whole aspiration thing would impact how the Clippers are viewed, but the actual transactions that they did over the offseason, you don't love the Norman Powell trade, but when you look at it in sum, because it's John Collins and Bradley Beal are coming, getting Brook Lopez, just home run stuff there, keeping the flexibility in your next James Harden deal as well. And then I had Raphael Stone in Houston. I think that you could say he over-indexed on like not guards or ball handlers. Like they just have all these. They're not all forwards and bigs, but they play like forwards and bigs. So there's that element. But also, you got Kevin Durant. It wasn't that big of a price. If you end up being way better, we love the Jabari Smith extension. That could be part of it. And then also, they have ammo to do stuff at the trade deadline as well. Once Fred VanVleet specifically becomes eligible to be traded, or some of the other deals do as well. So the team could still improve.
Yep. Yeah. Any other like down ballot guys before we get to the long shot picks? I mean, I think.
What about Mike Dunleavy Jr.?
That's the one I was going to point to.
He held us hostage for the entire summer.
I just smashed the Kuminga situation, got everything they possibly could have wanted, was comfortable. Daryl Morey did. He was comfortable being uncomfortable. And, it is still not a great situation, but I think the Warriors come out of it looking about as good as you can. Horford is kind of like he wanted to play there, so I don't know how much credit you give the Warriors for that, but that could be one of the most meaningful offseason acquisitions in the league if it goes right. So he definitely is up there for me.
People will give Brad Stevens credit for the way he shed money from the Celtics, especially what if he gets them to duck the tax without giving up a single real draft pick to do so?
Nobody ever credits those. It'll be, I don't know.
I feel like everybody credits those. We romanticize the teardown.
We do, but it's not I think it's when it's got to be more of a Presti thing where it's look at all the picks they got from this teardown as opposed to look at all the money they saved. I don't think that gets rewarded.
We didn't mention Presti, but no player options on Holmgren or J-Dub, the AJ Mitchell and Jalen Williams. Now, what if Brooks Barnheiser is all of a sudden an all-rookie? Do we just give the award? Do we rename it after Sam Presti at this point?
I mean, that raises the question of, is there Presti and Thunder fatigue? We can't just give him everything. I think everybody, yes,
watch me.
Presti's a wizard. What about I guess it's Austin Ainge? It's probably just Danny Ainge, but The Bailey pick was ballsy. Like that wasn't an easy pick to make in the moment, given all the stuff that was floating around pre-draft. If he wins Rookie of the Year, I don't know. You might think about it.
I won't, because that Yusuf Nurkic trade was still inexplicable.
That's right. It's still a mystery. We don't know. We don't know what that was about. No one's ever going to know.
You were listening to the Sarah Todd episode, right, where she explained the logic to me. I was like, Sarah, I totally get it. And I'm still out on it.
Yeah.
Who's your wild card?
Ben Tenzer / Jonathan Wallace. John Wallace. It's hard to say. If the Nuggets, this is kind of the same logic as the Bruce Brown 6-man dark horse pick. Like, if this bench actually does give Jokic the opportunity to rest, and if it does actually not get absolutely smoked when Jokic isn't on the floor, that's the thing the Nuggets have never had. And so to do that with such limited resources, now the MPJ trade, we're going to litigate that forever. You give up an unprotected first. That's always a rough look for a player that's like debatably better than the one you gave up. Tough look. But if Cam Johnson's really good and this bench is really good, I think the Nuggets then will be really good, and everybody's going to want to pat these guys on the back.
I also had Sean Marks because we romanticize the teardowns, and it's you got the Nuggets unprotected pick, but Michael Porter Jr., what if he's healthy and good and not podcasting during the season? The Hayward Highsmith trade, what if they got something for him and then we'll get something for moving him? We could look at, they didn't give in to Cam Thomas, and maybe, or does he up his value and they're able to move him and he's going to waive his implicit no trade clause? The other thing is, we went in depth with Lucas Kaplan of Nets Daily, so go check out the look ahead. There's stuff to like about the picks they made, but everyone was so down on their aggregate draft haul. Yeah. What if one or two of those guys just pop? Yegor Demons, all rookie. Nolan Traore looks great. Danny Wolf is doing things while playing all 5 positions for some reason, or Ben Seraph is playing well. So you look at that, I feel like there's potential for him to sneak in, knowing how we feel about teams that are just starting their rebuilds. It's, look at all they've done. If a couple of these rookies wind up panning out right away, his case gets a lot stronger.
I think, too, and I'm hoping for this, if this, like, one of the things we talked most about with Lucas was, like, this philosophical basketball experiment of, like, the player types that the Nets are targeting and how they might want to play, like, kind of Pacers-y. And everybody's down on those picks, like in the aggregate, like you said. If it kind of works and you can see the Nets like with this emerging style that might be kind of like a vanguard, cutting edge, like way to play, and it's because of these rookies, then it's like, oh, this guy, he's kind of like he was ahead of the curve, and that's really going to get a lot of attention. I will be paying attention to it. I guess I don't know what everybody else will do.
You have anything else, or are you ready to take us out of here, sir?
I'm good to go. I think we've sufficiently put ourselves out there and made a lot of bold predictions.
I do like doing these better after we have sample sizes to work with rather than predicting
then you have
them
to use
scratch.
Things like evidence. I hate it. Thanks, everybody, for listening, for watching. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, do all that stuff. Let us know if our wild card picks were too wild or not wild enough. I think it's going to do it. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. Shouts, Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jared Allen.